Well, good morning. Bob Kerrigan with you from The Law Show. The Law Show is broadcast here at this same time every week, and so we're happy to have you joining us and inviting you to send text questions to us where we try to answer them. Many times we can answer them on the air. Sometimes we hold them back and save them for the next show, which we will answer them on the air. But there are occasions too where people have particular case situations where they're wanting to communicate with us privately. Any communication you have with a lawyer for purposes of obtaining legal advice is protected by law. In other words, the lawyer, once you contact the lawyer can't go on television and say Mr. and Mrs. Smith have contacted us about representing them in an accident case. We can't do that. Lawyers can't reveal any information that the client has given them, and any lawyer that does it has violated the professional rules that we are sworn to adhere to. So you simply cannot repeat what someone has told you. Now, there is an exception to that if you have a lawyer and you tell the lawyer, I'm about to go burglarize my neighbor's house. I'm mad at him and he won't return my lawnmower, and I'm going to break in his house and I'm going to steal his rifle. Don't teach him a lesson. A plan to commit a future crime is not protected by attorney-client privilege, and the lawyer has an obligation to notify the authorities. If you are intent on committing a crime and you tell the lawyer, I am going to commit a crime, then that information can be relayed to appropriate authorities. If, however, you went to the lawyer and you said, I made a big mistake. I got mad at my neighbor because he wouldn't return my lawnmower. And while he was away, actually he was at church, I broke in and I stole his rifle. Different situation. An admission of a crime that's already been committed is protected by attorney-client privilege, because that lawyer then cannot go tell somebody that you've admitted to a crime. There was a book written many years ago by a lawyer who became quite famous. And he, in his fame, he relayed what his client had told him confidentially. In fact, during some of the congressional hearings that we've been listening to and will listen to over time in other congressional hearings, every once in a while, something comes out where someone talks about what their lawyer told them. That's okay. You can relate what the lawyer told you if you want to. It's your privilege. However, the lawyer cannot relate what his client told him, and that's what this lawyer had done. And he took the information his client told him, proceeded to defend him poorly at best, got the poor guy convicted, but the lawyer became quite famous as a result. I won't tell you who it is. I don't want to defame anybody, but it's fairly well known among lawyers that happened. So you cannot relate information that is given to you in confidence by anyone. So that's available to you as a free advice from the lawyers here at Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. Tonight, actually now this morning, there's information that's available on the internet about various kinds of things. I say this morning, that's where I encountered one particular thing. But there's information out there about how seniors particularly are being deceived, misled to pay for something that is not of value, not worth what they're being asked to pay for it through one scam or scheme or design or another. And one article this morning triggered my attention to this general subject. So I just want to cover some of the things that we know about where people have been misled and deceived. I'll just take something, this is quite common. You see advertisements by an automobile dealer, for example, and the advertisement will say, dealer selling below invoice. below invoice. Wow, I mean, selling it for less than they paid for it. Well, that's what you would think, because the normal definition of invoice is what someone has paid for something. Okay, that's the bill that they're given to pay. So he says below invoice, the implication is that the dealer had to pay for that car, but is selling it for less than he paid for it. Well, automobile dealers make very substantial profits, one of the most profitable businesses that you can be in. And so they're not selling cars below their actual cost. And what the ads fail to say or fail to describe is, what is an invoice? They are relying upon your general understanding of the term to be applied to the term that they're using in their advertising. Below invoice to the average person would mean below their cost. Well, businesses can't stay in business by selling things below cost, but you could say, well, there might be an occasion where at the end of the year or something that they have to get rid of it because they're paying interest on the car, or whatever, the floor plan or whatever their interest plan is for their inventory, that they have to get rid of it and they're willing to lose money. I don't think there's any question that on every single car sale, there is a guaranteed profit. I have no doubt that some cars have been sold by dealers at some point in time and they've lost money on them. But the very concept of selling it below invoice suggests with a new car that the dealer's selling it for less than they paid for it. Well, there's all kinds of little hitches and whatever about that. First of all, we don't know how they're defining the word invoice. What is their definition of invoice? Because we know what ours is. We know what we think the invoice term means, okay? Theirs might mean something different. And dealers have all kinds of ways that they can derive profit. They can get year-end bonuses from the manufacturer. They can get a per car per diem paid to them based on the number of cars they've sold, and a number of other ways that they can derive profit. And then the question is, what is their definition of invoice anyway? It's very hard to do that, but you could ask a dealer sometime if you go in, how do you define invoice? When you say you're going to sell me this car below invoice, show me what you paid for this car. Well, they're not going to do that. And if they do that, you're not certain that what they're showing you is what they actually paid for. So what's the point of this? It's these terms are being used in a way to cause people to reach conclusions about things that benefit the person selling, but they may not be true. Okay? May not be true. Let's take this common example. And I'll tell you, this happened to me, all right? Just personally, I was a victim, okay, my own stupidity. I bought something on eBay, and it said it was a used product. I needed it for a recording device I had or something. And so I put the bid in there, and I got it, and I was quite happy that I got what I wanted. And then I saw that the shipping price was about 4 times what it should have been. But I'd already agreed to buy it. And it was disclosed. If I looked very, very carefully, I could have seen that the shipping cost was way above their shipping cost. Okay, what it actually cost them. But what they could have said is, well, we factor in shipping and handling. We've seen that, haven't you, on ads? You see shipping and handling. You can return this product and you only have to pay shipping and handling. Well, who defines handling? What does that mean? Nobody really knows what that means. Handling, okay? It could be a lot of things. Overhead, it could be the cost of their rent. I mean, who knows, okay? Shipping and handling. Very deceptive about what you are actually going to pay. So look out for shipping and handling, all right? And if it says shipping, verify what the shipping cost is that you're going to have to pay for if they're shipping it to you. And that's what happened to me on this eBay purchase. But I paid it because I was too dumb to really look into it and make sure that what I was bidding for didn't include some unwritten or unstated thing about shipping because it was written, but I had to hunt. I went back later and tried to figure it out, and I had to find it. I want to talk for just a second about talk radio. A lot of people listen to talk radio because you have news, and some people like different celebrities or different people, talk show hosts on these programs and all. But I've found a common denominator that is pervasive on talk radio, and it's this. They are selling products based on fear. This is a very common way to sell seniors if you can scare them. Most sheriffs will tell you when they run for office, they're going to keep you safe because they know the common theme is people are fearful. Fearful. The older they get, the more fearful we become. So on these talk show hosts, the ads, if you listen carefully to the ads, almost all of them, not every one, but almost all of them have a common denominator of fear. Okay, Rush Limbaugh says that every 37 seconds, someone steals identity. I don't know where they came up with that number, or, I've only met one person in my life that had their identity stolen. You can have your identity stolen, but it's not common at all. So up comes the products. Here's all the products we offer that will protect you. LifeLock. Remember when LifeLock first started? The guy that started it bragged about it, gave his social security number. Somebody stole his identity, used that social security number, and they had to change their whole advertising. Now they say they got $1 million policy, and they say things like this. Not everybody, not all identity thefts can be protected or prevented. Well, that's the way they started the advertisements. Remember the lady who falls down and says, I've fallen and I can't get up. And fear of many elderly people is to fall and not be able to get up. Well, now you have, what do they call these Lexi things? Or, you have them in your house and you can holler, hey, call 911, okay? You don't have to wear a necklace with a bead on it and pay $42 a month or whatever that is. So it's all designed to, the common denominator is to scare our senior citizens. What's an effective thing for politicians? They're going to take your Social Security away. Well, people worked all their life for Social Security. Last thing they want to do is support a politician who's going to claim or try to even limit their benefits. It's all based on fear. We're going to take away your Social Security. Vote for us, for law enforcement, because we will keep you safe. Give us more and more and more money, but we will keep you safe. To the point where, I suppose the safest way you could protect people would be to have a deputy assigned to every living person. That would be a tad expensive, but it's not a basis for the sheriff, for example, or your local law enforcement officers to continue to increase their budget and increase and increase and increase way beyond a proportional increase for the population. That is common. We have staggering budgets for law enforcement now. It's the biggest part of your ad valorem tax payments go for law enforcement. This is Bob Kerrigan with The Law Show. We'll be back here after a relatively short commercial break. And then later in the program, Mike McLeod will be talking about some legal issues that I think you'll be interested in. We'll be right back.
Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. May the fours be with you. Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. May the fours be with you.
Bob Kerrigan back with you here on The Law Show. The Law Show is brought to you every week at this time by the law firm of Kerrigan, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. We have offices across the Panhandle and have been practicing in North Florida for many decades, maybe too many decades. In any event, our lawyers are board certified and specialists in the field of accidental injury and death claims. I had an interesting experience recently that I'd like to share with you. I'm a big fan of Tesla, and particularly Elon Musk. I think he now has been reported to be one of the, if not the wealthiest person in the country or the world or something. He's quite wealthy, but he's an amazing entrepreneur, creative. He's taken tremendous risks in the development of the Tesla. I owned a Tesla. I've sold that Tesla and drove it for about a year and loved it. It is the greatest car. Okay. They're not a sponsor of this program, but I'm going to tell you the Tesla is something else. And it's the wave of the future. I mean, we're going to have electric cars, all kinds. I'm not as crazy about these cars that are the self-driving. I'm too old for that. I can't handle it. I get too nervous. Okay. Maybe in your 20s or 30s, I'll let the car drive itself. I want to read a book. I can't do that. But on every other test, the Tesla is really a remarkable car. But what I want to talk about now is how a great product can get mismanaged by short-term stupidity and profiteering that is totally unnecessary, and that Elon Musk would never agree with and would never do it. But you have lower level people in the organization who get rewarded based upon the earnings or the money that's derived or the sales or however their compensation is, which is fine. But let me tell you what happened to me. So I ordered this Tesla, and I got the car that I wanted, and it's the lowest price Tesla, but I really like it. It's plenty of car for anybody. It's just a marvelous car, as I've said. So it was due to be delivered to me, and so I was arranging the delivery because the last Tesla I got, they delivered it. So then the salesperson, very nice salesperson, said, well, if you live over 250 miles away, we'll deliver it. But if you live within 250 miles, you have to come pick it up, which I thought that was kind of odd. And they said, well, we calculated that you are the closest dealer to you is like Jacksonville, because I was calling from Tallahassee, but I live in Pensacola, so I was trying to figure out, well, just a second, the car's going to be delivered in Pensacola, so that's 353 miles, and that's from Atlanta, or 300 miles from Jacksonville. I mean, at least 300, was it? Probably 380 to Jacksonville. And they came back and said, well, Tesla's policy now is they charge $750 to deliver your car. I said, well, wait just a second. You said it was going to be delivered unless I was closer than 250 miles. Well, it wasn't closer than 250 miles, but they changed the deal. So I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to buy it. I said, well, it's the car you wanted. It's the car you ordered. I'm not going to buy it. Well, did I prove something with that? No, I didn't do anything. It didn't accomplish much because the money works this way. If you have 10,000 customers and you do this to, say, 3,000 that live away from where a dealership is located, like Atlanta or whatever, and out of that 3,000, you get, say, 50 people that object and won't pay it. Then they calculate, well, all right, we're still going to sell the car. All right, we'll be delayed maybe a month in selling it over what we would have sold it. So what's that delay 1 month? What's that going to cost us? Okay, so for these 50 people, we don't care because all the rest of the people are going to be compliant. They're going to be easygoing. They're going to be excited about getting their Tesla. So what we'll do is we'll just run over these 50, literally take from them their opportunity to buy our car because we're going to sell it to somebody else pretty soon. And so that just that little margin of time that we lose there, we're going to end up benefiting, right? There's a cost analysis. We are going to end up benefiting by this. So you think, well, I take a stand, and I'm going to stand my ground. I'm going to stand my ground. Didn't accomplish anything. But you know, I had an experience with a restaurant. I like this restaurant a lot. And I noticed that when you ordered a shrimp salad, now you're going to say, what does that have to do with anything? Please wait with me. I'm going to, as we used to say in the law, I'm going to connect this all up. Okay, just give me a little more time here. So the shrimp salad started to get, each time, like every couple of weeks, I'm beginning to order the shrimp salad. It's like the shrimp was like one less shrimp. Okay. Well, I don't count the shrimp. I'm not in there counting the shrimp, but I kind of noticed it after a while. Then it was 2 less shrimp. Okay. Then eventually it was like 3 less shrimp. Okay. Then the shrimp got smaller. It's like, then I quit going. Well, when did that happen? That the cord was ripped? Was it the second shrimp, the third shrimp, the smaller shrimp? What was it? But I can tell you this, once the cord's ripped, it's done. Restaurants will tell you that a person has a bad experience at a restaurant, it's 5 years before they'll go back. That's the industry statistics. So eventually, even a great company like Tesla might get to the point where the shrimp are too small and people quit buying it. Not because it isn't a fabulous product. It's because the people involved down the line delivering the product are nickel and diming people over and over again, thinking there's no end to it because it's a great product. There have been many a business fail because of that view that we can cut back on quality, we can cut back on support, we can cut back, we can ship everything to India or Pakistan, we can sub out parts that could be made here, we can make them cheaper someplace else, they won't be quite as good. Eventually, these decisions can cause a business to fail, but they never know which one it was. They're never going to know until the business fails. And when the business fails, they can't come back. And so it's very short-sighted and very unfortunate. But will it make a difference for Tesla? Now, not a bit. Not a bit. What about these car warranties? Oh my gosh, the phone rings off the hook. We've been trying to reach you. Where have you been? Why haven't you returned our calls? Your warranty opportunity is expiring. See, back to the fear. Back to fear. We're going to scare people that they're going to lose their warranties. We talked about the chiropractor ads saying you're going to lose your insurance. Again, scaring people. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my insurance. Turned out that the insurance they were talking about was only $10,000 and that you weren't going to lose all your insurance. That one little portion, if you didn't have an injury, you didn't need it anyway. Okay? Fear. It's based on fear. Car warranties. You're going to lose your warranty. You're going to lose this. You're going to lose that. You need to pay us so you won't be afraid anymore. We are going to take care of you. We're going to take care of your car. We're going to take care of your whatever it is that they're pitching. We're going to take care of your health. We're going to take care of your potential for some bad thing happening to you, your identity being stolen, whatever it is. So just be aware of it. Be aware that any business that approaches selling anything to you, I don't care what it is, selling anything to you, if they even hint that there is a potential for you to be fearful, don't buy it. Speaking of don't buy it, these telephone calls, not just robocalls, but these calls of people saying, "Hey, Bob, how are you? This is Jim from the Federal Troopers Association. Are you a law enforcement guy? Do you believe in law enforcement?" Well, of course, everybody believes in law enforcement. It's a stupid question, but I'd say, "Oh yeah, yeah." Next thing you know, you're on with some guy, and well, so why is he calling? He's calling to sell you something. What they're selling is you don't have to be afraid anymore because we've got law enforcement officers that we're helping and we're raising money so they can protect you. That's what you want, isn't it, mister? I mean, you want to be protected. You want to be safe in your home. You want all designed based on the undercurrent of fear. Fear. Instilling fear in people so they buy your products. And the representations made by veterans that about veterans called you, do you support our veterans? Well, what would somebody say? A decent human being would say, of course, especially disabled veterans, especially people disabled in combat. Are you kidding me? Give anything we can give to them, period. Okay? Because they've given it for our country. So yes, we support them. But we don't support you, Yahoo you. We don't support you because you're making 80% of whatever you're raising money-wise to keep. It's every place now. I mean, it's almost impossible to go through a week without several phone calls selling something based on fear. So just be aware of it. We're all vulnerable to an extent. I've admitted my own errors on some of these issues. But be very cautious about it. If I were you, I would never respond to a phone call unless I knew the person calling. We don't. I won't do it. Because they're not calling for anything for you. They're calling to take something from you. And forget surveys. Surveys, don't do them. Don't do any of them. All you're providing is information to them that they put in a database that they use to sell you more products. Refuse to answer any surveys. Do not do it. And these people that call with these political surveys, the last thing you want to do is tell them anything about how you're going to vote. Who knows what they use that information for, but you can bet they do it. And the idea that things are anonymous, you forget it. Forget it. Nothing's anonymous. They know everything. It probably sounds way too paranoid, but the people that are getting the information are sophisticated in getting it from you. So best thing to do is don't give them anything. This is Bob Kerrigan for the Law Show at Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. Thank you very much for joining us here. We're here every week at this time. Text us, please, and we'll answer your questions. And sometimes we can get back to you quickly while we're on the air. So until then, thank you for watching Law Show, and we'll see you later.
Looking for the number of an experienced personal injury lawyer? Look for our number. You'll see it everywhere. Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. May the fours be with you. Looking for the number of an experienced personal injury lawyer? Look for our number. You'll see it everywhere. Welcome back. This is The Law Show. It's sponsored every week at this time by the law firm Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. Our law firm specializes in cases that involve serious accidental injury and wrongful death cases. And those are cases where loved ones, people are killed in serious accidents. Our firm has practiced across Northwest Florida for 40 years. And during those 40 years, we have opted to focus almost entirely on accidental injury cases. We are trial lawyers. We are board certified in civil trial law, and that is a type of board certification recognized by the Florida Bar for lawyers that do this sort of personal injury practice. And we're proud to host the Law Show every week at this time, where we hope we provide helpful information about topics that we deal with week in and week out, and we answer questions that you present to us. And in this kind of modern age, we can do it by text. And so our main number across Northwest Florida, across the Panhandle, is 850-444-4444. And you can text us this morning at that number, 850, and then it's all fours, if you have a comment or a question about the show today. You can also email me directly at my email address, which is mike.mcleod@kerrigan.com. So email us or text us if you have a question or comment about today's show. And so I want to talk about a somewhat new a resource that we can use when we investigate serious automobile accidents. So traditionally, and we still use these methods, of course, when we're hired by someone who's injured in an accident, we will immediately want to investigate and document how the accident happened. And we do that through traditional means. Our investigators look for witnesses, and witnesses can come from people in other automobiles who see the accident. They can come from passengers in one or more of the vehicles that are involved in the accident. In today's world, people at businesses, bystanders, sometimes see accidents and can testify about who ran the light, who was at fault, how fast were certain vehicles going at the time of the accident. And those are somewhat traditional ways that for years and years we have investigated and put together exactly how accidents occur. Another thing that is somewhat more traditional than what I want to talk about in just a few minutes are using knowledgeable experts, engineers who have special training and experience in helping us recreate accidents. And some of the simpler things that they do are things like they can measure the coefficient of friction of certain asphalt roadways to see how much they grip tires when they brake, and they come up with a calculation for that. They can measure skid marks from tires that are left on the road after a vehicle puts on their brakes hard and skids to a stop, and they can use formulas to try and determine, well, how fast was this car going, depending on the length of the skid mark, how hard the braking was, the coefficient of friction of the asphalt roadways. Also, some experts can examine, for example, seat belts to see whether or not there's a certain tension on the belt and give an opinion about whether or not the occupant of that seat in the automobile was wearing their seat belt. But today, in today's world, we also have this terrific resource, and that is called an electronic data recorder. And so automobiles, really since the year 2000, most of them not all of them, but most of them have an electronic data recorder embedded into the center of the automobile. Typically, it's under the front seat or between the two front seats. And it's underneath, I guess you'd call that center console. And the electronic data recorder, sometimes we call it the black box of the automobile, was originally introduced by General Motors. And so ever since maybe it's 2010, I would say almost 100% of automobiles in America have electronic data recorders on all of these vehicles. And so we can extract the information that these black boxes, and they're really very similar. They're not as sophisticated as an airplane black box. When an airplane crashes, technicians can retrieve the black box of an airplane and recover all sorts of data. Well, in today's computer world, we can do almost the same thing with your automobile, with all automobiles that are in serious collisions. It's required now that technicians with sufficient training to extract the information from the black box, the electronic data recorder after an accident. Florida Highway Patrol officers, some of them have the capability of extracting this information, and they do in serious accidents when they are not sure exactly how an accident happens. So they can extract this information from the black box after a serious accident, and then on a computer they can read all sorts of information and data about how the accident happened. For example, the black box recorder will tell us exactly the speed of this particular vehicle at the time of the collision. And we don't have to rely on eyewitnesses who are sometimes wrong about the speed or their estimates about the speed. Over the years, we hear people say, well, I think they were going the speed limit. I think they were going over the speed limit. I don't know exactly how much, or this car was going really fast. And those are helpful, but the black box information will tell us the exact speed a vehicle was going at the point of impact. It will also tell us the percentage of acceleration on the accelerator pedal at the time of an accident. For example, a computer printout will tell us that 5 seconds before the accident, the accelerator was pressed at 50%. It'll tell us the RPMs of a vehicle. We had a horrible accident that we were involved in investigating with really severe and dire consequences for the occupants, that we were able to obtain this information, and we found that the driver of the at-fault vehicle, who was driving through municipal streets, not out on a highway, but in an in-town area, had the accelerator pedal pressed all the way to the floor well before the collision, well before the impact with a telephone pole, all the way up to the impact with a telephone pole. And we knew precisely that the pedal was pressed all the way to the floor, 100% acceleration. And the speed and recklessness of that driver is no doubt what caused that severe accident. The electronic data recorder will also tell us the direction of impact of the crash. Is it a head-on collision? Is it a side impact? Is it an angular impact? It'll tell us the precise direction of the force of the other vehicle or the other thing that the car impacted. In a rollover accident, the electronic data recorder will tell us the angle of the rollover. I'm checking my notes here because there's so many things that the recorders will tell us after an accident. And this can be very important. The data recorder can also tell us which of the front seat occupants were wearing their seat belts. It'll be recorded on the recorder. And why is this important? In Florida, if you're injured in an accident in your automobile and you were not wearing your seatbelt, a jury can put fault on you for contributing to your own injuries. We know that seatbelts save lives. We know that seatbelts limit injuries. And so juries and insurance representatives can penalize, as far as recovery for the injured person, those plaintiffs, those people that are injured, for not wearing a seatbelt. Florida is what we call a comparative negligence state. And that means that when we analyze who's at fault in an accident, or when juries assess fault in an accident, juries don't have to find one party 100% at fault and the other not at fault at all. They can compare fault. It's done in almost every trial. And so even though another vehicle runs a red light and hits you and injures you, if you don't have your seatbelt on in Florida, as you're required to have, a jury can put some fault on you for your own injuries, even though the other person was at fault in causing the accident. So the electronic data recorder can tell us whether or not either of the front seat passengers were wearing the seatbelt. It can also tell us the angle of the steering wheel. All of these things can be critically important in determining a complicated accident, and whether or not our client was completely without fault, who was at fault. All of these things are accessible now from investigators that are trained and authorized to download this sort of information. So in today's world, we very quickly, after we're hired in an accident, when somebody's been injured in an accident, we want our investigators to do the traditional types of things that we've done for many, many years. Look for witnesses, look at businesses and storefronts to see if there's some video running, 24-hour surveillance video. In many of our cases, we've been able to find store videos from cameras that run 24 hours a day, and we've been able to obtain video of the accident itself. Not so uncommon in today's world, where you can just present your client's case with an actual video of the accident, which sometimes shows who's got the light. Not uncommon at all, but it takes some footwork early in the case before things get erased and people forget what they saw. And then the second thing in serious accidents we can do is get all of this specific information from electronic data recorders that will tell us without any question exactly a lot of these details about accidents. We're out of time for this segment of the show. I'm Mike McLeod. It's our pleasure to host the Law Show every week at this time. All of the lawyers with Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. And we'll be back in just a minute with more of the show. Thanks for watching. Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. May the fours be with you. Looking for the number of an experienced personal injury lawyer? Look for our number. You'll see it everywhere. Looking for the number of an experienced personal injury lawyer? Look for our number. You'll see it everywhere. Welcome back to the Law Show. I'm Mike McLeod. I'm one of the partners with the law firm, Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. I've been with the law firm since 1984. So 37 years I've been practicing with Bob Kerrigan, Bill Rankin, George Estes, and our partner Randy Thompson came along after me. We've all been together for a long time. We've limited what we do to representing people who've been injured in accidents of all types, automobile accidents, medical malpractice cases, cases that involve injuries in other manners, from dangerous products to premises cases where people are hurt on a premises or business that doesn't have safe conditions. We've done it for a long time. We're board certified in civil trial law, which is the board certification area for personal injury trial lawyers. And we are proud to host the law show every week at this time. Our cases are handled on a contingency basis. That is, there is no fee, no cost of any kind unless there's a successful recovery. All of the risk is with us. And in cases where there is a contingency fee, there's no reason for people who are injured in accidents not to handle the best lawyers they can seek out and hire. We recommend that you talk to more than one lawyer and evaluate who you're hiring and judge whether or not that's the person you want to handle something of great importance to you. So for this last segment of the show, we're going to hit the mailbag a little bit and respond to your questions that have come in by text and email. Again, we can be reached here at the show by our main number at the office, 850-444-4444. Number's on the screen now. And you can also text us at that number during the law show. We'll get your text and we try to respond to your questions and comments either by phone or by, if the questions will benefit other viewers, we'll answer them on the show as we're going to do here now. Again, I'm Mike McLeod. My email address, if you want to email me with a comment about the show, is mike.mcleod@kerrigan.com. So one of our viewers watching the law show says she understands that mediation relates to negotiation. She would like to know if mediation requires both sides to come down on the price to settle, or if it's just the defendant is the one that should go lower. We've talked about mediation on the show before. Mediation is a meeting between two sides in a case or lawsuit or insurance claim. And typically in our cases, it's a meeting between our client and us and an insurance representative or a defense lawyer in an effort to settle the case. And the mediation is conducted by a trained mediator who is experienced in helping people settle cases. And so the question is it only the defendant that agrees to go lower? No. Sometimes mediations are voluntary. And so in a typical mediation, the two parties might start out a long way apart and make steps with the mediator to come closer and closer. That's not always the case. Sometimes mediation is ordered by the court, and so a party may be so entrenched that their position is the right position and they don't want to go higher or lower. Their position is pay me this amount or I'm going to go to trial. Or the insurance company may say, this is all I'm paying, or you're going to have to take me to court or our insured to court. And so that's, I think, not often the case, because when people go to mediation, they're looking for a way to try and resolve the case. And so, but there's no rules about who goes first, whether or not you have to change your position or not. What we recommend is that we get a good mediator who's really seasoned and experienced and who has the respect of both sides. There are many very fine mediators in our Northwest Florida area. and we listen to the mediator and let them conduct the mediation. But there's no rules about who goes first, whether or not you can't go change your position, or whether or not you can't stay at the same monetary number that you start out at. So there are no real rules about that. And then the follow-up question is, when do you know when to stop negotiation? Well, in a mediation, if the mediator thinks that the case cannot settle, the mediator will say, hey, look, Mike, I don't think this case can be settled today. Doesn't mean that people might change their mind in the future. This may be a case that goes to trial, but I've been in the other room with the other parties. I've been in this room with you and your client, and it does not appear to me that at least today this case is going to get settled. And so that is when you know that there's no point in giving another figure or continuing to negotiate the case. All right, how is the value determined in a case? Well, if you have a lawyer, we hope that you have trust and faith in your lawyer, and the lawyer can help you evaluate your case. And some of the elements that go into what is your case worth are: how clear is it that the other person was at fault? Sometimes you give a little bit on the value of your case if it's not crystal clear that the other guy was at fault. Some cases, the client may have contributed to the accident to some degree, and sometimes that contribution of the client to his own injuries or her own injuries plays a role in the value of a case. So how clear is it that the accident was the other guy's fault? Plays a role into what is the value of the case. Also, tangible things like, what are your medical bills? What are your future medical bills going to be? Sometimes if a party has health insurance or Medicare or Medicaid, those entities have to be paid back out of a settlement amount. And so how much do you have to pay back your health insurance carrier who's paid your bills as a result of this other guy's negligence? Will be a factor in, well, what will I settle the case for? Because I got to pay some of this money back to Medicare or to Blue Cross or Florida Blue or whoever your health insurance carrier is. So those are tangible things that you can really kind of add up on a blackboard, is the way we used to say it before computers and the internet. Also, what are your lost wages? And if you're not going to be able to work the same in the future, what are your future loss of earnings going to be? So those are all tangible things that can be mathematically added up and determined. And then cases where people have significant injuries, in most of those cases, people are entitled to recover for intangible things like the loss of ability to do the things they love to do before the accident, to enjoy life, and to things they have to endure as a result of some of these terrible injuries that people incur through no fault of their own. Those are harder to evaluate. And I think that it really helps to have a lawyer who's been around for a while, who knows the community, who's tried cases. Board certification is a great objective measure of a lawyer who's tried enough cases, handled enough cases to help you evaluate, well, what's my case worth? All right, so let's see. Is there a way to determine if anyone has sued a particular physician previously? So yes, in Florida, actually, there are some resources to determine whether or not claims have been made against a particular physician in the past. And I think we can put this information up on the screen now, but the Florida Department of Financial Services, that's the Florida Department of Financial Services, if you go to their website, they have a claims made section where you can look up physicians and see what claims have been made, and some of the outcome and resolutions of those claims. Also, I checked this out before we went on the air this morning. There's a consumer helpline that can, I think, get you to this information. That number, I believe, is 877-693-5236. So that number is a number where you can reach the Florida Department of Financial Services, and they can help you determine where this website is, where you can look up physicians here. All right, let's see if there's another question here. Is there a way to negotiate privately with a physician regarding a potential medical malpractice claim, or are you required to work with the insurance company? Well, I think typically if you think you have, and let me say this since we're talking about medical malpractice claims, we are really blessed in Northwest Florida to have fine hospitals and physicians throughout our community. And so medical malpractice, people can be frustrated by getting a bad result in a medical procedure. But a lot of times those results that aren't as good as we want them to be are because the practice of medicine is complicated, and it's not something that's like 1 + 1 is 2. It involves some risk. But if you believe that you have a claim against a physician, typically those can be complicated cases, and one, because the medicine part of it can be more complicated. Also, there's some procedural rules in Florida that pertain only to medical malpractice cases. There's some pre-suit requirements that have to be met before making a claim against a physician or hospital in Florida. And it would be very difficult, I think, to pursue those without an attorney helping. I will say this, though. I have seen recently, and I think this is true more recently than some time ago, when hospitals are involved in mistakes, hospitals have risk loss managers or risk managers who are involved in these potential claims. And sometimes hospitals will meet with you and try and do the right thing and make things right. So that's possible, I think, more so with hospitals than with individual doctors. So that's the end of our mail for the week. But we'll be back again at this time next week on The Law Show. It's brought to you by the law firm Kerrigan, Estes, Rankin, McLeod, and Thompson. Our firm represents injured people across Northwest Florida. We're proud to host The Law Show each week at this time, and we'll be back again next week. Thanks for watching.